And when we got to like 8,000 girls, we were supporting them all through high school. We didn't, we're a small organization, couldn't do that, so we convinced the government. Well, we filed a lawsuit in the Supreme Court.
I know, that's why I was one of the things that impressed me so much.
Well, and won a complete victory. And the Supreme Court, they declared the practice illegal, and they ordered the government to provide education, other rehabilitation services to these girls, and they didn't do it. I mean, this is a country where Supreme Court edicts don't mean what they should. Having worked for a Supreme Court for 37 years, I find that really shocking.
Yeah.
But anyway, so in 2009, early 2009, we brought 400 girls in, 500, 600, I don't know how many, formerly bonded girls, marching, chanting all through the streets of Kathmandu with banners, and they really kicked up a fuss. And they did street plays along the way, and they gave out leaflets, and then we arranged for appointments with them with all the big shots, the UN Human Rights Commission, the Prime Minister, and everybody said, yes, we'll do something. So that year, the Parliament actually appropriated $1.6 million, which here is a huge amount of money,
yes,
for their rehabilitation. Well, guess what? The money hasn't come to them. It's just all been stuck in bureaucratic maze, and it's been horrible. And a few of the girls, not many, have actually gone back to work because they couldn't go to school. So, so this is the second delegation we brought last week of girls, and we arranged for them with them to see the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister is now a Maoist, and he spent years in the jungle. He's a really tough guy. And they went to see him. They had a half-hour appointment. They spent an hour and a half. He wouldn't let them go.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he told them about what they had gone through when they were enslaved, and tears in his eyes. This tough old bird, And he said to them, you come to my office at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and I'm going to have the ministers of all the concerned departments there, and I'm going to see to it that you get that money. So they went at 9, and then they had to go to various ministries, and about 6 o'clock they decided they wanted to come to see me. So a whole bunch of them came to my house, and they're so, they're so fantastic. These are girls who have, with our help, they make their own NGO, right? And the head of the NGO in each of the 5 districts where it's called FKDF, Former Kamari Development Forum, and each of the 5 districts where the practice occurred, they were all there, and some others, and and the mother of a girl who was a Kamari girl who was burned to death, and under very suspicious circumstances, and they suspect that it was the employer. But they couldn't. They tried to file an action in the local courts, and they wouldn't accept it. So she came to a little tiny, sad-looking woman. She was along too, and they filed it with the Kathmandu police, because I think the bullying occurred here. So they were just sitting around in my living room. Momos? You know what momos are?
Momos. Love momos.
And they were so, they really couldn't talk English, but they were just, it was so wonderful to see them. They were so energetic and smart, and so that was really nice.
So what's happened to the girls? What have they been doing that since they've been rescued and since the money hasn't come? What's happened to all those that have sort of just been in limbo?
Well, that's only been now. Well, no, they have all been in school, but their school fees haven't been. No, I shouldn't say that. They're not all in school. If they're about 15, 16, they don't want to sit in a class with first graders. They won't stay. So we have we call it a bridging course, where they go to a very, very intensive 9-month program, literacy program, literacy, numeracy, and then we put them in a vocational training.
I see. And so you have your own facility where they do this?
Well, we have both. We have sponsored the formation of cooperatives. So the girls get together and do a project. Like, for example, you know, henna is very popular in this part of the world. Mendy's are painted on their hands. You see everybody's hair is red. And the Dang district, where 5,000 of these girls have come from, is, for some reason, the soil is perfect for growing henna. And you don't need land for it. It grows on the side of fences and buildings. So they have formed a cooperative, and they've started a henna business. They bought big processing machinery. And they have very, very good quality henna. We're thinking of opening an outlet for it here in Kathmandu. And then they have a bamboo project making beautiful bamboo products. Vegetable farming, tailoring. We've had, I don't know, probably a couple of dozen girls who started their own tailoring business.
I think that's part of what our funding is going for us with the training. Job skills training.
It's really,
and part of it for the NGO that they've created. So the funding for dining for women.
Yeah. I mean, these girls, when I think of them, I mean, most of them are in college now. You could think of them as slaves, kitchen slaves, being abused by their employers. So that's very satisfying. And you know, but being able to eradicate a practice, that is.
So has that pretty much happened now?
It's happened, I'd say 95%.
Oh, congratulations. That's fabulous.
It doesn't mean that none of the girls are sold. It happens sometimes, once in a great while, but it's done at night, under the table, and the family is a disgrace in the community.
Oh, really?
Whereas when we first went in there in 2000, people would boast, "Father, I have 2 girls, I can't wait for them to turn 7 so I can sell them." And it was a matter of pride. And I mean, it sounds terrible, and I was so shocked that this happened, but when I went out there, when I saw how poor they were, and maybe this is the only income they have. It's a whole family, and they're living on her $50 or $60, and so they do it for their other children. But B, it's also a cultural thing. It's a very interesting story. This custom only it's only the Taru ethnic.
Oh, the Taru ethnic group.
Nobody
We just visited them. That was the group we saw, the very last group we visited.
Where was that?
It was
Chitwan.
in the district of Chitwan. It was in the middle. It was in the middle of the Chitwan Reserve, the animal reserve, near the river.
They're different. They're different groups of Tarus, but this is 5 adjoining districts where this custom occurs.
Which area is it?
It's Dang, Kalali, Bardia, Banke, and Kanchan, adjoining districts in the west. And these people had lived in this area for hundreds, maybe thousands of years, and they were farmers. They had big tracts of farmland, and no schools, no education, very little contact with the outside world, and they were immune to malaria. That was the reason. That's such an interesting thing. I don't know if anybody's ever found out how that happened. So when they discovered a cure for malaria, then clever people came down from the hills, and they bought their land like they bought Manhattan for a bag of beads. They bought it for a bottle of whiskey or something like that. And these farmers ended up as tenant farmers on their own land. So they lived in little shacks on the landowner's property. It's so interesting. Every employer in that area is called a landlord, whether they own land or not. It doesn't make any difference. A landlord means boss. So they ended up as tenant farmers on their own land. And they lived in these shacks. And if they needed money for clothing or medical care or a wedding or something, they borrowed it from the landlord. They put their thumbprint on, and he charged a huge amount of interest. And they couldn't leave the land until they had paid off their obligations. And their contract was renewed year after year. And if they died, then their sons were liable. And by the time their sons got it, it was impossible to pay. So basically, they were enslaved. So in 2000, the government, to its credit, wiped out this practice. They said, this practice is illegal, no more, and all debts are forgiven. And we will, well, what are these people going to do? They're illiterate, their families are illiterate, they have no land, they have no money, they have no training, and they said, we'll either give you land or we'll train you for a job. And of course, government didn't keep its promise. And so, and while they were bonded, if the landlord said, send me your wife, send me your daughter, I need more household help, they just go and work for the landlord without any pay. I mean, they had to do what he said. And so when they were freed and they didn't have any land, then they started more and more to sell their daughters as bonded laborers. It was not shocking to them. They themselves had been bonded, and so had their fathers, and so had their grandfathers. When we first started in there, we called a group of mothers together. And we said, how many of you were Kamari? And almost all of them raised their hands. So this was not as shocking a practice as seeing it from the outside. So between that and their poverty, they were very, but it's just wonderful to see the changes there, and they're so empowered. And then we have provide a lot of legal backing. For example, some of the girls have been raped. One of them came back with a little boy, and the employer said, not me, I had nothing to do with it. And so, I mean, we got the girls together, and they demanded a test, you know, paternity test, and it proved that he was a father. And then we filed an action in court, and she got half his property.
Wow.
She's got a farm now, and her son goes to school. And
so, fabulous!
So we do, you know, we protect them legally too. And they actually jailed a guy who was a rapist, the employer's son, who raped a girl. And some of these girls, what I found was so shocking. Some of these girls, I mean, they were little girls like this, 6 or 7 years old. You wonder what they can do.
Yeah.
You know, they sleep under
so
the stairs.
what drew you to that issue? Because there's so many issues here.
I really can't take credit for this particular issue because in November 1999, Som Punter, who's our executive, we won't have a chance to meet him, but
Fortunately.
He's fantastic. He's our executive director, and he saw an article in the Kathmandu Post saying, okay, January's coming, and it's a certain festival that the tourists celebrate with great energy called Mage Sakrante. It's a very important festival. And and Mage's coming, and the labor contractors are getting ready to go out to Don to buy the girls. And he was so shocked. And he called me up, he said, Olga Didi, do you know what's going on in my country? Because a lot of Nepalis don't know. It's confined to this ethnic group. And so he said, what if I went out there and see what I can do? I said, sure. So he went out, they speak a particular dialect, they speak Tara dialect. He went out with a Tara-speaking friend, and they talked to the fathers, and the fathers said, you know, we need the money, and, you know, my wife has been bonded, and I was bonded, so it's not so bad. And so he said, you bring your daughter home for Mage. This program is a dream logistically. One day the bonding occurs, middle of January, during the Mage Festival.
It's yearly.
In 5 adjoining districts with 1 ethnic group. I mean, if we try to, wipe out child labor, we couldn't do it, but it's confined. So we said, bring your daughter home for Mage, and we'll make it worth your while. We didn't know what we would do. So then we went back. Some went back. I didn't go that year. And out of like 26 of the 28 fathers had brought their daughters home. And I said, okay, now what are you going to do for us? And we weren't sure ourselves. We thought we'd say, how much did you get for the labor contractor? And here it is. But they're very smart and savvy, and they asked around in the villages, and they talked to the women. The women said, whatever you do not give our husbands money. Alcoholism is everywhere there. And so with the women, they came up with this alternative. They love pork products. Give you a baby piglet. Now it's usually a baby goat because there's some virus going around pigs there.
Because there's some
virus going on pigs, so it's usually a goat now. We'll give you a baby piglet, and they sell it at the end of the year for about the same they got amount to it, and we'll put your daughter in school. So we paid all school fees. We paid 3 liters of kerosene a week because they didn't have lights, so they could study, and we paid for a book bag and shoes, and we gave them, when the labor contractors came in, they would bring a local girl dressed in beautiful city clothes to tempt the girls to go. And so we gave them all, they have beautiful local costume. We gave them all a costume like that, and a book bag and school supplies, and a lot of empowerment training. And we started this big campaign in the villages. And we still have a radio program every Sunday night. FM is a good way to reach people here because lots of people, they're very cheap little FM radios, and the farmers listen to them while they're farming. And so we still have a half-hour radio program on Sunday nights, and the girls talk about how they suffered and how and lots of demonstrations, you know, all kinds of really. So now, I mean, the communities get so we started out with those 28 girls, and 10 years came to 11,500.
And how do you know there's 20,000?
Well, we did a survey. We thought there were 20,000 then. That doesn't mean that there are now 20,000.
Okay.
Now, because
they don't keep backfilling. They're not.
No. It's because now it's such a disgrace to do it, and employers know they're going to be sued by loads of actions against employees who won't release the girls. And so, as I say, I can't say that it never happens, but very seldom. And it's now. I mean, there was. We went to one village. There was a local politician. He was so proud. I'm arranging these things for my constituents.
Oh my!
Selling their girls. I mean, and we went back 4 years later. He was just doing the opposite, helping to rescue girls.
Oh.
So that's been a very, and I really would love to publicize this because this custom occurs. It's very common in India. It occurs in Haiti. And it occurs in certain countries in Africa. And of course, this is in the Nepali context, but still, it's.
You know, we've never heard of this in any other country, have we?
Well, I did hear somebody from Ghana speak about it. But she wasn't part of Dining for Women. She had just come to a meeting of ours, and she mentioned that it's very common in poor families to put girls, you know, out in different jobs, and they're just servants basically from a very young age. So you're right, it does exist. I just didn't even. But you put it, you know, you've got a name on it, and you've got it, like you said, it's been sort of a dream situation in one sense, you know, that it was targeted. So it's a good way to start and to know.
I mean, there are families as poor as the Tatar who do not bond their children. Now, if what we tried to do was to end child labor, that we couldn't do. I mean, it's everywhere. But this was contained. And
okay, you end Kamlari, and you've got families that have been given pigs or kerosene or whatever. So is the way that you continue to avoid that reoccurring in the future is just providing education for girls? Or?
Education, empowerment, awareness against. I mean, I don't think these families realize how their children suffered during this. Nepali girls are very circumspect. They don't talk much, and they don't complain much. And I don't think the parents knew what these girls were going through. To publicize that, to take legal actions. So even though it's just the 1 year, by the time you made these girls, you know, realize that they that this is illegal and that their parents can't do it to them, and by the time you encourage the community to realize how terrible this is. And people say, oh, what's to stop you from, they take the girls, they'll take everything, and then they'll sell their girls to them. It's not like we go out there once a year and see who's around. It's mostly the local people who runs this. Every school has a club, every community has a club, an anti-Kamlari club.
Oh, wonderful.
And we have semi-volunteers, hundreds of them. They know in every little hamlet, every little village, what is going on. And if they find out that the father's about to sell his daughter, they appear in their school uniforms and say, why are you doing this to your daughter? Because in the school and so forth and so on. And so it doesn't, it's very seldom, it has happened a few times, but very seldom that families have bonded a girl again. And it's community pressure. I mean, we couldn't prevent it, you know,
right.
as an organization, but it's to get the community to pressure them.
You have a great mix of legal action and
advocacy and education,
yeah.
Everything.
But the wonderful thing about this country, now not every kind of community would be amenable to something like this.
Right.
I have
That's a very quick change, right?
with 10 years
Yeah,
for something
very,
that's
yeah.
that ingrained.
Yeah.
I have a friend who has started a program in southern Mexico for children who work on plantations, and she says they have the most difficult time convincing families that nobody in this, well, of course it's true here, nobody in the family's ever been to school, but there is a culture here of wanting, much less for girls, but still wanting your child to be educated. So they're willing to listen. The culture's amenable to this, which makes it so satisfying to work here.
Is the culture amenable to education in general, more amenable, say, than in other parts of the world where they feel education is a priority?
No, I think for the most part. I mean, if they have to choose between a boy's education and the girls,
Right.
they'll choose the boy.
Yeah.
But education, I would say, generally is something that's thought to be desirable.
Yeah.
Because one of the ways that we tempted the families was to say, we will put your daughter in school. We will pay all the expenses. And we supported these kids through high school. And but when that got so big, and we have thousands of girls, and we're not a huge organization, and we just couldn't continue to, and we didn't want to bring them home unless we could send them to high school. So that's when we started lobbying the central government here to, he said, look, it's your fault. If this is against the law, you haven't enforced the law. It's your fault these girls have been bonded, and therefore it's your responsibility to rehabilitate them. And they listen.
Well, we are really happy to have a chance to hear the details of the program. And